Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, it's a lot going on in the Israelite community and world. Man, it's a lot going on. And, man, it's so much going on that it's kind of hard to pinpoint where to start at because, our history is so massive. And, this, what I want to point out is how the people, we Israelites, abandoned our heritage to how they made converts all around the world. They converted since they wasn't real Israelites. It wasn't no problem with them passing the Israelite heritage off to others through religion, through the religion that they created called Judaism. They created that religion, Judaism, so it was okay for them to convert certain peoples. And they mostly converted peoples on their trade routes. And, man, we have to trust Tanakh history to show who an Israelite is. Because the Jews converted a lot of peoples since they, had our heritage, or since they, got possession of our heritage thousands of years ago. And we Hebrews have to show in Tanakh history how we are the Israelites and how the other people who the Jews are claiming today are Israelites. Now this is a strange thing that's going on, and only a woke Hebrew could understand this. We all gonna have to wake up, and we all gonna have to serve the Creator. So we gonna come into truth and light. There ain't no question about that. And our enemies know it, and they just be trying to prolong it. That's all. Their whole game is prolonging us from coming into the truth that the whole world gonna have to take knowledge of. And man, it's like this. Those Jews, the Sepharadines, who had pigmentation, so it wasn't no problem. And you're gonna see that most of the people that's been converted to Judaism gonna come from the Sephardi groups that went all over. I'm talking about, they went all over. They went all over in Spain. From Spain in 70 AD, when the Edomite temple of herds was destroyed. And them Jews had trade routes way before then, as I can prove, from the Babylonian trade routes and the Babylonian capitalism that went to all lands. Man, Babylon had trade routes and traded with other nations way before us Israelites was even a people. But when we abandoned our heritage to the Babylonian scribes that was placed in our land, and then they, got chased out of the promised land by Ashkenazi through the Romans, and then they went and settled in Spain, in Portugal. They went and settled there. And then, when the Catholic Church or the Ashkenazi religious organizations, created religious organizations, caught up with them, then, they would leave there, and then them Sepharadines, them Sephardies, who some Hebrews be calling Morenos, thinking that that's, speaking about us, or that the people of our ethnicity was in Spain kicking it and free and ruling and everything, and how I showed that that's false history and how that's Jewish myths. And then I prove how the Israelites ran into Africa, all the tribes, as I'm going to do again. But I want to show how the Jews had trade routes and how they went to other lands and converted people, and how you can see that conversion on the people by the things that they wear, like that Yamalik or that Keppa. We Hebrews had locks and a lot of hair, and we had turbans and robes is how we got down in the BC days and in antiquity. You know, we got down with the turbans and that we didn't wear no little flimsy keppa or yamalik on our head. And then how did that come from the stringy haired peoples that didn't have the hair consistency that we have, like the afros and so forth of that nature, the nappy head peoples, with how that they had straight hair, and then how that they had the Yamaliks, the Edomites, created that in Ashkenazi, and how that that's part of their religious practice. As you can see that the Keppah and the Yamalik is mentioned in the Talmud, in the Jewish books. You know, that's gonna be the religion that the Jews created. The Babylonian scribes in Ashkenazi, you know, created. You know, they play a part in the Talmud creation too. But how that, you know, we Hebrews didn't, you know, wear these Amaleeks and Keppers and so forth, and how that that's part of a Jewish tradition. And then I'm gonna show how that, you know, a lot of the peoples that's been converted, you can see that they are not Israel by the things that they do. And then I want to point this out, is how that the Hebrews didn't leave the promised land to go into other lands to worship and do a covenant that we abandoned clearly in Tanakh history, and how that Tanakh history showed that the Hebrews abandoned the covenant. And then I showed that the exiles, the ones that was captured during the Babylonian wars when the 99% ran into Africa, how that they was destroyed by the Greeks. I got plenty of videos about this, and but this video gonna mostly, you know, be about the conversions. And you know, it's a whole lot of conversions, but I want to show this specific people, because we Hebrews think that all pigmented peoples, you know, we Hebrews think that all pigmented peoples, meaning the Hebrew Israelites, or that they are the lost tribes of Israel, as I show in plenty videos that it wasn't no lost tribes of Israel, and how that that's mishistory and myths that our enemies created, and that some Hebrew organizations push too, because I think, you know what I'm saying, they just don't, you know, trust in the Creator. And how you don't trust in the Creator is when you believe in the New Testament and you believe in a demigod. See, they done took your belief in the Creator away if you believe in the New Testament and believe in the demigod, when you should have been believing in the Tanakh history, what they call the Old Testament, where it's just the worship of one Creator, and His word rings supreme. You know, and how His messengers, you know, gave their prophecies and so forth. And that's the history that we supposed to be on. But, you know, our enemies then created a whole lot of mischief in the Israelite history. And, man, that mischief is deep. And it's something else, because, you know, as we Hebrews start waking up, a lot of Hebrews are starting to get ensnared, or start out ensnared in the Jewish myths. And it's hard to untangle that, especially when you think that your heritage is tied into that. And the majority of the Hebrews, you know, they hurry up and run to if they see a black face claiming a Israelite heritage. Now, they done disregarded the scriptures, they done disregarded the prophecies and everything, and they just say, them our brothers, you know, the peoples in the land, like the people from New Guinea. Now, this is how you know something ain't right. This is how you know when something ain't right, is when our enemies go, you know what I'm saying, like they got professors, and they got professors in leading institutions. I got a couple of videos about this, how they using DNA as a trick, and then I got videos about the Limbas and the Igaboos, and how that they got the professors in the United States, Jewish professors, going to say that those peoples are Jewish, and that they have Jewish roots, and so forth, and that they are the lost tribes of Israel. And I'm showing that that's false, and that our enemies is trying, you know, what's funny is how they saying that the other peoples that ain't been through the curses, that ain't suffered at their hands, that ain't suffered at our enemy hands, are Hebrew Israelites. Now, that's what our enemies doing. They going and getting everybody that ain't suffered at their hands, that got pigmentation, that they converted long time ago, and say, these are the Israelites. And then as we wake up, we embrace them people, but you ain't gonna never come into your heritage falling up behind them people, because those people do Judaism. And man, our enemies been having thousands of years, especially the Sephardic groups. I got videos explaining how they go all the way back to the Tower of Babel. The Sepharadines, the people from Supra that was placed in our land during the Babylonian Wars. You know, I got videos, man, explaining this, how the people from Supra was placed in our lands, and how that they are scribes from Babylon, and the Sepharadines, and how they are scribes from Babylon, and then how did they history go all the way back to the giants, and so forth, that roam the earth, that we Israelites were supposed to get rid of. That's part of the Canaanite culture, the Amorites. You know, the Tanakh history tell you about them. Well, back in the days, Babylon had trade with a whole lot of nations, and that those Sepharadines that was placed in our land had pigmentation. Now, they are the real Semitic peoples, meaning that, you know, they can mix with, you know, ancient tribes that had pigmentation, and that the Sepharadines, it wasn't nothing for them to go to other lands with people with pigmentation and convert them, like the Edomites. You know, the Edomites, the Sepharadine branch of the Sepharadine branch of the Sepharadines are gonna have pigmentation, because they what you call the Arabs, and we know that there's black Arabs, and you know, so forth. Well, that's Cypher. That's where them people from Sepharadine comes from. The Sepharadines come from Cypher, and they are the Sephardics, Sepharadic, and Sepharadines. And the Sepharadines got pigmentation, and how did they went to Spain? They went to Spain. Now, the Sephardic gonna be the Sephardics that was in Europe, that made it with some Ashkenazis and so forth. And, you know, that would be the Sephardics. The Sephardics. But the Sephardics or the Sepharadines, and they degree of pigmentation varies by location, but they are mostly a non-pigmented people, or what they call olive skin. Now, you know, that's a funny thing, because we know olives are black, pitch black, or green, you know, but they try to say that they are light skinned and have a little degree of pigmentation, but as they mix and go to other lands, they pigmentation can vary. And it's like, you know, that the Sepharadines that was in Spain went to when Ashkenazi through the Catholic Church chased them out. See, it's been proxy wars going on for a long time since we Israelites abandoned our heritage to them Sephardics and the Ashkenazis. When we fled the land and went into Africa, because we had the chance to stay even when Ashkenazi was chasing us out under the name Scythian. You know, and I got video showing how that they come into our heritage, and I'm gonna do a little history on them again also in this video. But this is to show how that that them people from Spain, you know, when Ashkenazi came through the Catholic Church, and then they went down to South America, but because they quick to go where the pigmented people's at, you know what I'm saying, and roam around, and then they convert some of them folks and stuff. Well, some of them went, you know, to Papua New Guinea, on their way to Japan, in India, in China, and how that they had trade routes, you know what I'm saying, in those lands that stretch back to to the Babylonian days, and how that they never lost contact with them lands when we Hebrews abandoned our heritage. And I even got a video showing how the Sepharadines went home to Cypher. Now these people been in our heritage, practicing our heritage since 722 BC, and I even got videos showing how they come to the Passover dinner and how that they was immersed in our heritage before we abandon our heritage. And then, if we abandon our heritage for Egyptian religion or Sahara religion, and that these peoples are practicing our heritage as well as the other peoples that was placed in our land during the time that we was on Egyptian religion, then them people will be recognized as the Israelites, especially if the real Israelites run off. And I show how all the Israelites ran into Africa, because the people who was after us extinct the Assyrian Empire, killed everybody, and how we knew about Ashkenazi and how Ashkenazi functioned, and how they got rid of whole populations under the name Scythian, and how we Hebrews ran into Africa. Man, I got videos explaining how them folks even come about, and how they start kicking it in Assyria, and how they just moved there, and how the Syrians couldn't get them out of there, and then how the Syrians come and got us and tried to get the tribes of Israel to fight them folks. Well, when that happened is when the 10 lost tribe myth started. And then, because it was during these times, we never recovered from being on Egyptian religion from 931 BC, when Jeroboam brung it out of Egypt, all the way up to the time that King Josiah, which was a prophecy king, cleaned it up. And it was cleaned up in 621 BC for certain. And then how the Egyptians killed him, and then how we was only free of Egyptian and our enemy's religion for 31 years. And then how we would run into Africa because Ashkenazi was after us, and how that we, we never got a chance to practice our heritage. And then how that our enemies, the people who was placed in our land by the Assyrians, the Sepharadines, the Sepharadines, and man, they took over our heritage. And then how did these peoples, Ashkenazi, how when we went into Africa, how we had the chance to stay and confront them peoples with the power in the belief in the Creator, when he told the prophet Jeremiah to tell us don't go into Africa and to stay, and that he would make the Babylonian Chaldeans not be so vicious towards us. And how we said, nah, man, we going into Africa, and how we don't want no dealings with them people, and how we went into Africa abandoning our heritage to both groups, the Sepharadines and the Ashkenazi, and how that they would take our heritage to their lands and other peoples and convert them. And then that's how our heritage got spread around, because we know by Tanakh history is that the Israelites didn't obey or follow the covenant, and that we abandoned it. You see, but these people, through the Sepharadines controlling Western civilization history, being Amorites, and the Amorites are the founders of Babylon, which is the founder of what they call Western civilization. And how that these people were scribes, the people from Sepharadine, and then how that they wrote and controlled Western civilization history, its meanings of words and so forth. And how that we abandoned our heritage to some Babylonian scribes, and that when we ran into Africa, all the tribes, the 99% during the Babylonian wars, and how that these peoples didn't record that, and how that they start playing like that they was the Israelites. And that's how the whole world been deceived for thousands of years, and people been believing that they the Israelites. since then, since the Babylonian Wars, since the Hebrews ran off. Now the exiles, that 1% that would come back from Babylon or the Mesopotamian area, confronted them folks. And then I got a video explaining how that they, got knocked off. Because don't forget, Ashkenazi was living in the Discopolis, in the Scotopolis cities. Ashkenazi was living in the Scotopolis cities already. And that, how it wasn't no problem for them to get rid of the exiles. And then that's what happened to the exiles. The exiles was living in what they call the Discopolis cities. And then those Discopolis cities, the head city was Scotopolis. And Scotopolis is where Ashkenazi stayed. Man, I had some papers showing this. If I can find them papers. Alright. Ashkenazi lived in Scotopolis, and they came into our heritage under the name Scythian, and they settled there during the Babylonian Wars. And I got videos showing how that they would shoot the whole promised land up. Shoot the whole promised land up with arrowheads and stuff. I got videos going into how the promised land was shot up with arrowheads, and how it was Ashkenazi arrowheads that shot the promised land up. And you have to look through the other videos to see this. But how Ashkenazi shot the promised land up with the with they only Pacific kind of arrowheads, and then how that they would settle in the Galilee and Discopolis cities, what they would later call the Discopolis cities, and how Ashkenazi came down from the Caucasus Mountain, and from the underground cities. Man, they had underground cities in Turkey where thousands of no-pigmented peoples lived. And then those no-pigmented peoples would come off and up underground and start going to Assyria and Babylon and the Mesopotamia area to get some education. And then I show how Cain descendants lived underground and how that they was chased underground. Now this is a funny thing, is because they got myths. Our enemies created myths saying that the Israelites during the Assyrian captivity ran up and lived with these folks underground. I'm talking about the Scythians, our enemies who chased the original Israelites into Africa, as the Tanakh show. That the Chaldeans and the Scythians made up the Chaldeans army, and they would destroy Assyria. But how did them folks come from underground? And had underground cities, and was what we would call the cave. They call them caveman, but no, they lived underground, and they had chambers, man, with flames, and just imagine no pigmented peoples, thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them, underground with no sunlight, and in chambers and caves, hopping around from one cave to another. They had underground cities, and then they would try to say that during the Assyrian conquest of the 10 tribes, that they took them up there to live with them folks. And I'm telling you that that's a lie, and that them folks be lying. And everybody tried to take the 10 lost tribes, what they call the 10 lost tribes, to their land, and then they cover up the conversions that them folks had, giving them people, the Ashkenazi and the Sepharadines, through trade routes. I'm gonna show you the trade routes and how they had trade routes under the name Randanites, the Randonite Jews, how they had trade routes, and how that they would go to Papua New Guinea and convert them folks. convert them folks. And man, there's a lot going on. Let me see if I can cover some of that, and then I'm gonna show how them folks ain't Israelites, and how did we ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars. But let's show these underground cities first, where all these devils live at. Man, look at this. And then this is around the caves. And then they would later build houses around them cave entrances and so forth. But how did them devils Ashkenazi and was mixed with Cain, and how the Amorites, the Hittites, and this is the Hittites' territory right here, and how Edom mixed up with them, and how that they wouldn't have no pigmentation, or have very little of it, and then how that they would try to camouflage them folks with Israelite history later on, saying that the Israelites ran up to these parts. Listen.
So far, the most awe-inspiring is perhaps the Darinkuyu City. It was discovered by accident in 1963. When a local family was renovating a house, a wall gave way to reveal a passage that led to this underground network. According to National Geographic, it is 11 levels deep, descending more than 280 feet to the bedrock, covering an area of over 4 miles squared. It includes temples, tombs, shops, living quarters, and even...
Man, they got temples, tombs, shops, living quarters, and everything up under there. Listen to them.
There are 36 of them, at
36
least.
of them.
Some of them hold up to, this is reconstruction here, this is what they sort of supposedly look like in a reconstructed state. They can hold anything as much as 20,000 people at a time. Now you work that out, 20,000 people times 36. Some of them are interlinked for many miles, many kilometres.
And it's where the non-pigmented people stay.
And there's no reason for these at all.
That they want to cover our history up with.
They were built by the Christians to escape the...
They want to say some Christians, ain't nothing built by no Christians. Some terrible chased them underground and
it would have been just to run away. Somewhere else. Why hide under the ground hoping that nobody will catch you? Obviously, if anybody knows they're there, they just stick around the entrance and just starve you, basically. It just doesn't make...
Alright. Now listen to these devils right here.
Western Iran. The Israelites began life anew in the lands of their captivity, but full-scale conquests by Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome were coming, all of which drove migrants towards Scythia and Thrace, the lands of the horse.
So you see, that's Turkey. Look, that's Turkey right there, and that's the Caucasus Mountain where Ashkenazi, the Scythians, them at. You see, that's why they say that the Israelites went there to live with them, and they ain't mentioning how in history it was Ashkenazi that came to the Promised Land under the name Scythian, and how that they would actually destroy the Israelites and chase them into Africa and so forth. I got videos showing this where Ashkenazi came, meaning to the Promised Land, with the Chaldeans, and then how that they would destroy the Israelites, and how no Israelites would want to go kick it and hang out with the Scythians, and how the Scythians we viewed as enemies, as mortal enemies, and how that the Scythians, Ashkenazi, came into our land, so we know ain't no Hebrews ran up there. Man, I had some paper showing the arrowheads, the different type of arrowheads, but I got videos going into it dealing with Ashkenazi. But how we would not want to go live with them folks, and how we would not want to go stay in their lands, and how we did not go from the Assyrian captivity up to Europe in the Caucasus Mountain, and how that the Tanakh history disproved all that. You know what I'm saying? That's like, this here, the trade routes. Here go the Randonite trade routes. And the Randonites are gonna be the Jewish merchants. The Jewish merchants. Look, you see the trade routes? They all in Africa. Soon as we broke covenant, and look, you see they trading everywhere except in the Sahara. It's like a circle around it. How they circled it and didn't do no trade right in the middle of here where we were, where we real Israelites were before we was enslaved. You know, up in these parts. They didn't do no trade up in there. But the Lingas and the Bantus and the Berber tribes, who they kin to, and the Limbas and so forth, and how they did trade all in Europe. Man, they got trade routes all in Europe. Man, look at them trade routes. All in Spain and Portugal. That'll be Spain and Portugal. How they just went all across that land. Trade routes. And then them trade routes will go all up into the Celtic peoples, England and Ireland. Look, they even over there in Ireland, them Jews. So you know they got boats and ships, and they the only people that had tunny ships, what they call, where they could take thousands of pounds, 20,000, 30,000 pounds of goods from one land to another. Look, and then they would convert people as they went along. You know, they converting people, putting Judaism on them. You see what I'm saying? And then how they all up in Europe and Russia and everywhere. Just, man, the whole, just everywhere. All over. And then how they all in Arabia and so forth. And then how they all over here in India. And then crisscross India like they did Spain and Portugal. And crisscrossed it all across there. Look. All them trade routes, that's their roads. That's the roads. That's their trade routes. Look, and they all up in the Ottoman Empire, you know, over there. And, man, they all into the Tibetan Empire. They all up here in Russia and at the deepest parts. Look, they way over here in Siberia doing some trade. And then how they trading way down here, man, in the islands and so forth. They all down in Papua New Guinea doing trade and converting folks. And look, they even tell you that they convert folks. You know what I'm saying? In the Jewish history, they'll tell you. If you look, man, they got a whole bunch of sites. Look, once there initially discovered people who are obviously direct descendants of Jews in the 14th and 15th hundreds, when Jews were expelled, when Jews were expelled from Spain and Portugal, many of them traveled to Peru. When the Inquisition followed them, many fled to Japan and others continued on to Papua New Guinea, where a large number eventually intermarried with locals. Now, this is going to be the Jews that went to Papua New Guinea are going to be the Sepharadines. The Sepharadines are the ones with pigmentation. They are the Jews with pigmentation. And then, you know, them having some pigmentation, it wouldn't be nothing for them to go mate with the peoples in the other lands. You know, the foreigners in the other lands. You know, as I show you, the Ashkenazi would come behind them with the Christian organizations, with the Catholic Church chasing them Sephardi Jews, trying to rob them and get what they got through the Catholic Church. And that's how that the Sepharadine will go create Islam, and then how they will fight back against Ashkenazi. Now, both of them converting folks as they move around, going into other lands. But these are the folks that will go to Spain in 70 A.D. when Herod Edomite temple was destroyed. See, Herod Edomite temple was destroyed in 70 A.D. and he started building it in I think it was 20 B.C. No, in 20 B.C. he started building it, and then we know that Herod died in 4 B.C., 4 years before the so-called Jesus was born. And then, you know, I got in history how it was a bunch of Jesuses also, you know, and how that they've been lying about that stuff too. You know, the Babylonian scribes, the people we abandoned our heritage to, wrote books and wrote history for thousands of years. So therefore, it wouldn't be nothing for them to go create the New Testament and its history and so forth. That's why it's 500 years different from the close of the Tanakh, which would be the book of Malachi in 430 BC. You know, as I explained that the exiles were destroyed by the Greeks and the other peoples that came and settled in the land, and how that they got them black folks land. Them pygmy people land, them Israelites was hanging around doing wickedness, mixing with them other enemies and so forth. Ezra and Nehemiah give you their history. And then how that our enemies knocked them off so fast, and how it wasn't recorded, because each time that our history wasn't recorded that it mattered, it shows that the Jews merged in during that time. That's like during the Babylonian Wars, when the 99%, all the tribes ran into Africa to live. Did nobody write about that? They didn't write about that because then you would think that the Sepharadines or you would think that the Sepharadines are the Israelites after the Hebrews ran off, and then they was Amorites. They was Amorites, in the promised land was theirs pre-Israelites, man. Before we even come into the promised land under our father Abraham, that how it was a Canaanite Amorite land, and how we was supposed to take it from them. And when they was placed from Babylon, they was being placed in their land. The promised land was theirs. And then how, you know, when we was tricked out the land, and then how that they just kept our heritage that they was doing, and how the world would eventually think that they was the Israelites, and then how they got history. And that's why come I be saying Hebrews be believing in Jewish myths, in Jewish history, is because the Jews have a history after 722 BC. You have to start being careful of what you accept as Israelite history, because it's going to be them folks' history. Because if you're not dealing with the tribes that ran into Africa and we lost our Israelite name, and then try to seek in them parts, then you're not finna know no Israelite history, because we abandoned the heritage, and our first derogatory name was Gramentian. I got videos going into this, but look, that's all them Jesuses, and it was a bunch of them, and you could translate that into the Hebrew equivalent, Yahshua, if you want to. It'd be Yahshua being Gamaliel, Yahshua being Sirach, Yahshua being Panther, Yahshua being Ananias, Yahshua being Shaphat, Yahshua being Gamaliel, and Yahshua being Thotbath. You know, they're the same individuals, same history, and all them was Edomites, and that the Jesus during the time of the Roman time, how that them people wasn't Hebrews, and how the Hebrew history, the Hebrews was knocked off around by 332 BC. All the Israelites gonna be gone. The Tanakh show the recording of King David's last descendants is gonna be Ananias. That's gonna be in 420 BC. 420 BC gonna be King David's last descendant mentioned. His last descendant mentioned, and it's gonna be First Chronicles and chapter 3. Chapter 3, the sons of David, and then get all the way down to the sons of Ananias. 7. And that's gonna be 420 BC. That's gonna be their last descendants right there. And the sons of Eloniah were Hadadiah, Elishaba, Kalel, Akub, Johanan, and Delhaliah, and Ananias. 7. Those were King David's last descendants, 420 BC, and then they vanished. No more, none of them. And then how that thin piece of history of what happened to the exiles, and then how that them folks that was in the land merged in under their history after they was destroyed. But listen to this here. Listen to this mess. And this come from them Jews converting folks all over, and then they be wearing that yummy leek. You see that yummy leek on their head, and when they got that six-point star, and then got that yummy leek on their head, then you gonna know that that the Jews got to them, and that they ain't tribes of Israel. If they got a yummy leek, And then they talking about that they the tribes of Israel and been doing it since the 1500s and in the 1400s. Because as I explained, no Hebrews left the promised land doing the covenant and taking it to other lands to do the covenant. The covenant didn't work like that. The Creator didn't work like that. The Creator didn't work like that. He didn't give us the land of Canaan, the Amorites' land, for us to go to other lands to live, to do the covenant. That's crazy. And a lot of people don't understand biblical history like they think they do, you know, and they be living in a fairy world, in a fairy tale about Israelite history, and they don't know the strictness and the strictness and the protocols of it. And that's like, you know, during Solomon time, you know, you have a lot of false history created off Solomon time. You got the enemies saying that during Solomon time the Israelites was taken to other lands to live, like Ethiopia and Zimbabwe and Nigeria, and you know they try to base their history off Solomon's time, because Solomon was wicked, and Solomon caused us real Israelites to lose our heritage. It's the reason why we went into captivity, is because Solomon allowed all them enemies to set up on the land, and then how he started doing business with the Egyptians and so forth. You know, I show in videos how Egypt had to do trade across the promised land, so they tried to keep us on their religion at all times so they can come across the promised land and do trade, and how Solomon fell into that trap and then made it with them other folks, and then how that would cause us to lose our heritage, and how we was on Egyptian religion from Jeroboam coming out of Egypt and putting that mess on us all the way to King Josiah cleaned it up, and then how the Egyptians killed him, and how we went into Africa, the 99%, all the tribes, and how we was never heard of to now. We waking up in captivity, realizing what went on, and we the descendants of the Israelites, and how we got the job and the task that we got to put it together. See, because our ancestors abandoned their history. That's how you know we Israelites, and how that these peoples in these foreign lands are not the children Israel. They are not the children Israel. They are not the children Israel, because we didn't go into other lands to do the covenant. And the Tanakh history don't support that. It show you that we always violated the covenant and didn't believe in the law. Listen.
Trip, so we took an army plane a couple of days later, which took us. We arrived. It was really a pretty surreal trip from the moment. It was really a pretty surreal trip from the moment that we arrived in Port Moresby. There was singing songs and banners of welcome.
Look,
this kind of
you know, if he going over there to embrace them, that them people ain't suffered none of the tragedies of the curse. How they escape the curses?
A couple of days later,
how they escape the curses?
Into the middle of the western jungle of
how them people escape the curses? Impossible. No Israelites left the land to do the covenant in other lands or strange lands. That's not the way that the Israelites function. All these people gonna come about is through Jewish converts. They converted to Judaism, and then we'll see them with some pigmented skins. We'll see them with some pigmentation, and we'll get all excited and happy. They're my brothers. They're my brothers. And men be emotional, not knowing that the enemies converted them folks a long time ago. Man, they converted them folks long time ago. Them folks are not the children of Israel. What slave ships they done been? Man, look at dude. Ain't no Hebrews looking like him. Man, these folks crazy. And then that's how they play us. And that's how they trying to get everybody in position before we come into heritage. Now, you got some Hebrews that's actually profiting, some real Israelites that's profiting off them folks that's following Judaism, that's going around embracing them folks in Africa and in other places and stuff. And then, you know, the time gonna come where we Israelites, the real Israelites, gonna wake up, and the Creator say we're gonna have the truth, and that how we finna, man, they gonna have to be servants. They're going to have to be servants, because ain't no way in the world that they didn't go through the curse. They don't even have the same spirit that we got. And it'd be wrong for us to embrace them people as Israelites because they got pigmentation. And then the Tanakh history show that they are not Israelites. And it's like, our enemies, man, they going to make everybody Israelites that ain't been in the transatlantic slave trade, who they didn't catch up in the transatlantic slave trade. They know that they put all the whoopings and all the beat downs and all the tricks and everything on us. So they don't want us to be Israelites because they can't trick us no more. But these new peoples, if they can get rid of us and keep us blind, then these new peoples who they turning out, then they can run some type of con game on them too. Well, it's up to us Israelites to save everybody. We got to save everybody. Check this out. If you go to Second Chronicles 30, this is in 715 BC. This is in 715 BC. This is dealing with King Hezekiah. It never was any 10 lost tribes during Assyrian times. And then this is who the Assyrians needed anyway. If you go to First Chronicles, let's go to First Chronicles first. First Chronicles chapter 5, and then we're gonna get to verse 16, 17, and 8. No, verse 18. We're gonna see who the Assyrians needed, because like I say, the Assyrians was having trouble with them folks coming up out the caves. And how did them folks coming up out the caves was none other than Ashkenazi from them underground cities in Turkey. And how them folks went to Assyria and started to get an education and then started taking it over. And then the Syrians needed us Israelites, and how we interacted with the Syrians all the time. They was robbers and jackals, just like how we Israelites were. They was robbers, just like we were, and how we had a covenant with them. And sometimes when we was doing real good, we'll hire the Assyrians to do dirty work, men against Judah. And Judah would, we would hire Syria to do dirt against Judah, and Judah would hire the Syrians to do dirty work against us. But how that, we all intermingled, and how the Syrians were robbers. But then in their last part of their days, as prophet Jonah went there and told them to get the beasts about their nation, and then how that they wouldn't get the beasts about their nation, and then how that them folks started to take over, and then how that they would come try to get us Israelites to try to help them, the 3 tribes, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, to help them fight against them Assyrians. Help the Assyrians fight against the Scythians. And then how, them folks would, whoop all of us, because we Israelites were on Egyptian religion. We never went anywhere to do the covenant and fight in other lands doing the covenant, because we was always on Egyptian religion. But this is who the Assyrians need. If you go to First Chronicles, the chapter 5, verse 18, the sons of Reuben, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men able to bear a buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 40,703 score that went out to war. That's who the Assyrians gonna need. That's who they wanted. And then if you go over to verse 26, this First Chronicles 5:26, and the Elohim of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Hala and Har and to Garzon, the river Garzon, unto this day. And then I can show in history how prophet Ezekiel say that Assyria started letting them folks hang out in their nation. And then that's what destroyed Assyria. Remember, prophet Nahum told Assyria when it was going to be destroyed and how it was going to be destroyed, and that the enemies was going to get them. And the enemies ain't none other then Ashkenazi, and then how that they would destroy Assyria, and then did it. And then I got history showing how that the prophet Ezekiel telling you how Assyria was gonna get destroyed, the fall of Assyria. You know what I'm saying? In this fall, and it come from letting them Baratuda, and King Midas and them kicking it in Assyria, and then how that they would destroy Assyria, and here's the fall of Assyria. So ain't no Assyrian took no Israelites, no Hebrews went to no foreign land because anything dealing with the Assyrians. We tried to help them. Look, this is what Prophet Ezekiel says. This is Ezekiel 31. This the fall of Assyria, and we know Nahum give its judgment and tell you that it was gonna fall, and this after the book of Ezekiel. No, it's before the book of Ezekiel, and then how the prophet Jonah had went there around about 760 BC, and then I got history showing how Ashkenazi was kicking it there, and then coming from underground, them caves in Turkey and so forth. All right, and it come to pass in the 11th year, and in the third month, in the first day of the month, that the word of the Elohim came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his multitude, whom are like unto thee in greatness. See, during this time, the Assyrians placed the Egyptian kings on the throne. The Satai history is called the Satai history. It's Saite. The Satai history showed that the Assyrians placed the Egyptians on the throne. So this lets you know that Tanakh history is correct, because you have the Egyptians even mentioned with the Assyrians during this time, and this is in 593 BC. This is the book of Ezekiel. He was like the first wave of Israelites to be captured by the Babylonians, and taken away. All right, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrians was a cedar. Behold, the Assyrians was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches, and with a shadowing straw, and of a high stature, big, strong. And his top was among the thick broads. He could rob, and you know what I'm saying? He was the best of the robbers. He was with the best of the robbers, us. You know what I'm saying? The waters made him great, and the deep set him up on high, with her rivers running round about his plants, and set out his little rivers unto all the trees of the field. He was robbing, and he was spreading out. You know what I'm saying? Could nobody, the Syrians had the strength. Everybody was, kicking it there. All the robbers. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his broads were multiplied, and his branches became long, because of the multitude of the waters when he shot forth. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his broads. That's going to be the Scythians and all them folks coming off and up underground. After we done been there sinning and stuff, now the devil coming to move in. All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his broads, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwell all great nations. All them robbers and killers, especially Ashkenazi. I got a video showing how Baratuda, and his son Midas and them was kicking it in Assyria, and then how did they, destroyed it, and how the Scythians, who Ashkenazi is, destroyed Assyria, extinct them, and how the prophet Jonah had just left there telling them to get them folks off and out of their nation. And then you see how the Tanakh history is telling you that all the beasts of the fields and the beasts and everybody raised their young up under Assyria. That's when Assyria came and got the northern kingdom to try to get them, to help them to get them folks up out their nation so they can make it. But we was on Egyptian religion, and then, man, we got destroyed. They chased us all into Africa. Everybody got chased into Africa, and then that's how you know that this wasn't no 10 lost tribes. Look, all the fowls of heaven made their nests in her broads, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwell all great nations. This was his fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his roots were by the great waters. That's us kicking it with us, and I can show you how the because Judah, mostly Judah kings was doing righteousness, and Judah king was righteousness that that Assyria couldn't come across the promised land. Because the majority of the Judean kings was right, so they would ask their other robbing partners, Ephraim, to do some trade, to take trade off into Egypt for them, and then that's what we would do for the Assyrians and the Egyptians. We was the middleman, and then how we was robbing with them and doing everything, and then how we was on Egyptian religion, and we done forsake the whole covenant. You know what I'm saying? We ain't doing no covenant, just a little bit. And I show you that we got 800 years in the promised land, and then how we only did about 275 years of it covenant. What we were supposed to do, what Moses gave us, and the rest we messed off. And then look, this is Hosea 12. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. His daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and all is carried into Egypt. See, the Assyrians in the tribe of Ephraim was robbing, as well as the Gad, Manasseh, and Reuben. Because the Assyrians went and got them, and then they was trying to get them folks up out their nation in the last part. Look, all right. The cedars of the garden of Yah could not hide him. The fair trees were not like his broad, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of Yah was like unto him in his beauty. I made him fair by the multitude of his branches. All the folks kicking it there, and them was like some mixed peoples, the Semitic peoples, what the Assyrians were starting to turn into. They was a Hamitic stock, but then as Ashkenazi and the other people started kicking it in, they didn't have no pigmentation. They started to change the Syrian population, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of Yah envied him. Therefore this saith the Elohim Yah, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he that shoot up his top among the thick broads, and his heart is lifted up in his height, I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness. Mean that the mighty one of the heathen is going to be Ashkenazi in them. And them the people that chased us into Africa after they destroyed Assyria. And then, this is where, the book of Second Chronicles 30, let you know that we escaped the Assyrians. And then I'm going to show that how it never was any 10 lost tribes, and how all the tribes ran into Africa during the Assyrian and Babylonian wars. But we're doing the Babylonian wars, and how we was heading that way when the Assyrians was getting their mouth tore out. And then how that Ashkenazi destroyed Assyria, and then how that created that 10 lost tribe myth, and how our enemies took that to all other lands, converting folks and so forth. Like I say, if they got yummy leaks and 6-point stars and so forth, then they doing Jewish religion, and they got their heritage from a Jewish source. But look, this is Second Chronicles. This is in 715 BC. Let me show you again. See, like I can't never get to Second Chronicles and read it, but let's show you how the Sepharadines was placed in our land in 722, and how they came to pass over dinner under King Hezekiah. Right here, all right, in 715 BC, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon. This is 2 Kings 17:24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddar, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharadine, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And I think during that time we was on Egyptian religion, during that time when the people got placed in our land. See, our enemies come try to parlay and kick it with us if we ain't doing the covenant. And if we doing the covenant like now today, trying to follow Moses' law, don't nobody want no dealings with you. They don't want to fool with you in no kind of way. Well, that's the same way it was in the past. All right, this is Second Chronicles 30. And they show you that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. So all this old stuff that they talking about, making all these folks in the Israelites that got pigmentation so we can get throwed off, that junk ain't gonna work, because you have to trust in Tanakh history in order to understand who an Israelite is from the beginning, because we know it was a lot of people that started claiming our heritage after we ran off. All right, this is Second Chronicles 30. And Hezekiah sent to, this is in 715 BC. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel into Judah. Look, you see, he say he sent to all Israel in Judah and wrote letters unto Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel. For they had not taken counsel, for the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time, because of the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to keep the house of the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. Now let's look and see where Beersheba to Dan is. All right, Beersheba to Dan. So we're gonna break our enemies up from telling these lies and then converting all these other folks, because when we confront these other folks and show them that they ain't the children of the Israelites, they got to fall in ranks. They got to fall in ranks. We don't mind you worshiping the Creator, but it's going to have to be up under our direction, not the Jewish people direction who we abandon our heritage to. All right, look, you see right there, Beersheba. He sent the letter from Beersheba all the way to Dan. All the way to Dan. So we know all the tribes is there. All the tribes is at home because he sent the letter to them. And this is in 715 BC. And look what he say. So the post, this is Second Chronicles 30, verse 6 now. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the king of Assyria. So he done sent the letter to everybody, from Beersheba to Dan. So everybody must still be in home. And that how he ain't, the Assyrians ain't hardly kidnapped nobody. And then that the people that they did kidnap is going to be the soldiers. And then they could have been stationed throughout different parts of the northern kingdom. You know, they're going to have security everywhere. So the Assyrians went and took them out of those different tribes that's mentioned in the Bible. Because as you see, the other tribes are still there. The tribes are still there. The only ones ain't mentioned is the fighters. All right, as you read on down, and then you get to the 10. So the post passed from city to city throughout the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, the verse of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. You know, so they coming to eat. And then as you read, keep on reading, they gonna be mentioning some more tribes. You know, as you read down, and then you get down to 18. For a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishkar, Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover, otherwise that it was written. But King Hezekiah prayed for everyone. You know, so, and as you read, you know, he gonna let you know that he dealing with the tribes of Israel. But this is the most typical thing to pay attention to, is that the strangers, when he had us come to the Passover dinner, now this is 7 years after the Syrian captivity, and how the strangers, the Sepharadines, the people we abandoned our heritage to, they came to the Passover dinner. And this is Second Chronicles 30, verse 25. And all the congregation of Judah with the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that come out of Israel, and the strangers that come out of the land of Israel that dwelt in Judah rejoice. So we know that them Amorites, Sepharadines, are Amorites, and we know they gonna be hanging around Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is their old capital. It's their old capital. See what I'm saying? It's their old capital. We took it from them. So they gonna hurry up and go be hanging around there. And then, that's what happened. Alright, so we see that them folks, in our land, and then the next event what would take place would be the Babylonian wars after the Assyrian wars. As I showed you that they was really robbing friends of ours. We was robbing with them, and then they turned on us. Robbers turn on each other every once in a while, and that's what the Syrians did to us. But if you get to Second Chronicles 34, all the tribes that's not mentioned during King Hezekiah time gonna be mentioned during his great grandson King Josiah's time, and how King Josiah was a prophecy king, and then how that he had all the tribes at home. And then the next event, what happened after the Egyptians killed King Josiah, is that the Babylonians would immediately come up. I show men around about 7 to 8 years, maybe 8, 9 years after the death of King Josiah, that our enemies pulled up real fast. And I got a video showing that our end came fast after the death of King Josiah. I got a video going into this. All right. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 1 and 30 years, and did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand or to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after Yah of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places, and the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Balaam in his presence, and the images that were on high above them he cut down, in the groves and the carved images and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. So did he in the cities of Manasseh, and Ephraim, Simon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattucks round about. When he had broken down the altars in the groves, and had beaten the images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. So he done cleaned up the whole Israel, and he returned to Jerusalem. And then the Egyptians killed him, put us back on Egyptian religion after he done cleaned it up. And then the Babylonians come, and we will go into Africa. All the tribes, as you see, all the tribes is mentioned during the Assyrian times under King Hezekiah. He cleaned up all Israel. And then under King Josiah, he cleaned up all Israel. And then, the Babylonians will be the next event. And then I show how all the Israelites ran into Africa, fleeing the Babylonians. And then that's what the book of Jeremiah is gonna be about. The book of Jeremiah gonna go into our sin, and how we were so messed up. And here go the dude that killed King Josiah. I got a picture of his wicked tail, old wicked Nicho. Old wicked Nicho. This old wicked evil Nicho, he killed King Josiah. And then that's the obelisk. That's the obelisk that they were put up in New York when we was first enslaved in Egypt, making bricks for the brick industry, that they threw that up. That's a symbolism of our slavery. And then King Josiah killed King Necho killed King Josiah and put us on Egyptian religion, and we would go into Africa. Necho is his name. Necho killed King Josiah and would put us on Egyptian religion, and we would go into Africa, and then that's all the tribes, and we would be enslaved from Africa, abandoning the covenant. That's why come I say ain't no Hebrews went to no strange lands to do the covenant, when to not history show that all the Hebrews broke the covenant for African Egyptian religion. As all the tribes was here, then this is all the tribes being chased off, and then once you off your land, man, you can forget your heritage. Like, well, I'm from the tribe of Naphtali. I'm from the tribe of Benjamin. That wasn't going on no more, because we was going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. We ain't caring about no what tribe you from and what tribe this and that. All that's over with. We don't even want our inheritance no more, because we going into Africa to live, because we was scared of them Chaldeans, them Scythians. This is 2 Kings 25 verse 26. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. And then that's going to be all the tribes being driven off the northern parts into Judah. And then from there, we would go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. And then on our way there, we played with the Creator. We played with the Creator big time. You know, Prophet Jeremiah caught up with us. And then, you know, after we, them folks done burnt the temple up, and done burnt our houses up, and done burnt everything up. And then how he caught up with us, and then asked us, say, hey man, y'all go back to the promised land, that the Creator gonna make it alright. And he ain't gonna just let them take you down through there. And we said, nah man, we're going into Africa to stay. And that the Creator didn't say, don't go into Africa. You know, that's what we said. And man, it was over with. And here we are today in captivity. Alright, look. This is 44. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel. This Jeremiah 44. Ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and all the cities of Judah, and behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. This is what we had said. Alright. Then all the captains of the forces, and Johan the son of Ker, this is Jeremiah 42, and Jezaniah the son of Hoshea, and all the people from the least even unto the greatest came near, and said unto Jeremiah the prophet, let we beseech thee, our supplication be accepted before thee, and pray for us unto the Elohim thy Yah, even for all this remain, for we are left but a few of many, as then eyes do behold. That the Elohim thy Yah may show us the way wherein we may walk, in the things that we may do. Then Jeremiah the prophet said unto them, I have heard you. Behold, I will pray unto the Elohim your Yah according to your words, and it shall come to pass that whatever so thing the Elohim shall answer you, I will declare it unto you. I will keep nothing back from you. Then they said to Jeremiah, the Elohim be a true and faithful witness between us, if we do not, even according to all the things that for which the Elohim thy Yah shall send thee to us, whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will obey the voice of the Elohim our Yah, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us. When we obeyed the voice of the Elohim our Yah, we was playing with the Creator with right there. That's how we broke the covenant. And then that's why we was enslaved, because we said, whatever you say that the Creator say do, Jeremiah, we gonna do it, and we gonna do everything the Creator say, and because that's what we, you know, supposed to do. And then he go get the word from the Creator, and the Creator say go back to Jerusalem and stay. And we said, nah man, we ain't doing that. And then we took off into Africa. So you know slavery gonna have to come down. And then the Creator said from the beginning, I just made a video about that, how he knew we would break the covenant. How he knew we would break the covenant way before we even broke the covenant. All right. And said, all right. Then Jeremiah the prophet said unto them, I have heard you. Behold, I will pray unto the Elohim your Yah according to your words, and it shall come to pass that whatever so thing the Elohim shall answer you, I will declare it unto you. I will keep nothing back. Then they said unto Jeremiah, the Elohim be a true and faithful witness between us, if we do not even according to all for which the Elohim thy Yah shall send thee to us, whether it be good or whether it be evil. We will obey the voice of the Elohim our Yah, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us when we obey the voice of the Elohim our Yah. And it come to pass after 10 days that the word of the Elohim came unto Jeremiah. Then called he Johan the son of Ker, and all the princes of the forces which were with him, and all the people from the least even unto the greatest, and said unto them, This saith Elohim, the Yah of Israel, unto whom ye send me to present your supplications before him. If ye will still obey, see. But we said, no, man, we ain't finna obey men in no land. Look, see. And it come to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people, all the words of the Elohim, for which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to them, even all these words, then spake Azariah the son of Hoshea, and Johan the son of Ker, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Elohim our Yah had not sent thee to us to say, Go not to Egypt to sojourn there, but Barash the son of Ner set thee against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they might put us to death and carry us away captive to Babylon. See, so we said, no, man, the Creator didn't say that. And then this is what we said. When you get to 44, then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt. See, we didn't pay no attention. We went on into Egypt, Africa. And Petros answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and saw no evil. But since we left off from burning incense unto the Queen of Heaven, which is that Amen Ra Patah religion combined. But since we left off from burning incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and pouring out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. See, we didn't go off the promised land to worship no covenant. So all these folks that's doing the covenant in these other lands, talking about they Hebrews, and we Hebrews, knowing that the Jews none converted them, knowing that the Jews none converted him, knowing that the Jews none converted him. Then you got him talking about he the tribes of Israel, and he ain't suffered no curses. He ain't broke no covenant during the Babylonian wars and ran into Africa and been enslaved. How they ain't broke no covenant. And how the Creator said that we will break the covenant, meaning that we will stop doing our heritage. And how ain't no Israelites been doing their heritage, the real Israelites, because we ran into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, and how all these other peoples come off the Sepharadines, and the people that we abandon our heritage to the Jews that we abandon our heritage to, is where them folks get their Jewishness from, and it's not Israelite heritage, because the Israelite heritage say that the Elohim shall smite thee with madness. This is Deuteronomy 28. The Elohim shall smite thee with madness and astonishment of heart. Thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant food and won't gather it and you know, man, curse everything. Curse, you know, coming in, curse coming out. Nowhere will we have sovereignty over ourselves and be able to rule and have a nation on our own and so forth. Man, there ain't no curses. Look, the Elohim shall lend, the enemy shall lend to thee, thou shalt not lend to him. More of all these curses shall come upon thee and pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed. You know, the Elohim shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. You know, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Elohim shall send against thee in hunger, and thirst, and nakedness, and want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thee neck. Man, there's so many curses that them folks don't fit. So how in the world did these folks in these other lands get to keep their heritage? The Jews converted them. Plain simple as that. And they did it under this name called the Randanites. The Randonite Jewish guilds. And then how did they went to all these different lands? All them different lands. All them different lands doing trade. All them different lands doing trade. Doing trade. Trade routes. And then they converted folks. And they really, Ashkenazi converted a lot of peoples around the Caucasus Mountain, Armenia and Georgia, in the Ukraine and all them so forth. That's like the Karaites, the Khazars, and the Kurds. All them same peoples. All them same peoples. All them converts to Judaism. Alright, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We ain't gonna let our enemies say who an Israelite is. We're gonna have to stop them from saying who an Israelite is, because we're gonna reject. We ain't gonna accept them folks, men as being our folks, because we gonna know the truth, and we gonna have to make a separation. Other than that, you gonna fall in up under them Jews, following and behind the peoples that they converted, thinking that they Israelites. They gonna take you right to their masters. Alright, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Wake up, Hebrews. You know what I'm saying? We got control of this history now, because we can show that the Israelites ran into Africa and never returned when the Babylonian Wars ended. When the Babylonian Wars ended and them Hebrews went into Africa that was speaking to Jeremiah, never came back home, because you got them prophets right there in they books to show, and them books is after the Babylonian captivity, show that them Hebrews never came back home that went in to Africa during the Babylonian captivity. And then I show you what happened to them in the other video. I got one not too long recently made, showing you how the exiles got knocked off by the Greeks real fast. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.